group. So you have to join that Google Classroom with your official email ID. You know, in last semester you joined 2 or 3 IDs. Some of the students have joined with the 2 or 3 IDs. So that is not allowed this semester. You know? So you have to join only from the one ID, and that is from your DTU ID, DTU email ID. Okay, otherwise it is very difficult to compile the results. Sometimes you submit the answer sheet from class test answer sheet from the one ID and sometimes from the other ID. So then it will create the confusion. Okay, so join only from the one ID and try to join from the official ID. Okay, so this is the lab class. So we will start the lab after completing the one theoretical class. Okay. Before that, I will give you the brief introduction of what is the fluid mechanics. Then we will start the lab class. Okay. So today I will give you the brief introduction, what is the fluid mechanics and why it is important for the chemical engineers.
हेलो सर, मेरी आवाज आ रही है क्या?
Yes, yes. बोलो.
अच्छा, आपने कुछ बोला था क्या?
हाँ, I told you that I have shared the Google Classroom link. है ना?
हाँ
So you
सर,
all
वो
have
मैंने
to
देख
join.
लिया।
हाँ, you all have join that Google Classroom link and join from one ID only. है ना? Some of the students in last semester joined from the 2 or 3 ID. So that is not acceptable. है ना? It will create the confusion during the evaluation. Okay.
ओके सर।
है ना? So be sure you have joined with the only one email ID.
ओके सर।
Okay. So in last semester, we have studied the transport phenomena, and in transport phenomena, we have already studied the momentum transport. So basically the fluid mechanics, this semester you will study the fluid mechanics. So the fluid mechanics is the part of the momentum transport. Okay. In this semester, you will study the fluid mechanics as well as the heat transfer. And the both you have already studied in the transport phenomena. So basically what is the difference when you study the fluid mechanics in the transport phenomena or the momentum transport in the transport phenomena and the same thing in the in a different subject like fluid mechanics. Basically when you study the transport phenomena it is more theoretical and you will do a lot of derivations and a lot of mathematics. So basically, the transport phenomena is a theoretical subject, and purpose to study the transport phenomena is to explain the correlation or analogy between the different type of processes. And when you study the momentum transport, then the force is transported from one part to other. When you study the heat transport, then the heat is transported, thermal energy is transported, and when you study the mass transport, then the component a component of a mixture is transported from one part to the other part. So that is the theoretical part. Now in three different subjects, in four different subjects, first is the fluid mechanics, second is the heat transfer, third is the mass transfer 1, and fourth is the mass transfer 2. In these four subjects you will study the same thing but for application purpose and how we apply that processes in the industry, that you will study. Okay, so in this subject you will study the fluid mechanics. Okay, So fluid mechanics is a very important part of the industry. So can you explain what is the fluid? I have already told you in the transport phenomena the definition of fluid. So what is the fluid? Anyone? What is the definition of a fluid or fluid phase?
Sir, anything which can flow.
Hmm? The substance which can flow. So the gases and liquids both are the fluids. And industry, the most of the component we use are either in the gaseous form or in the liquid form. So there are some benefits also. When the material is present in the gaseous form or the liquid form, it is easy to store because you can use the, you have already studied the equipment. In the equipment design you studied that storage vessels, and so storage vessel, you can easily manufacture a cylindrical storage vessel to store the liquid or the gas. You can change the operating conditions also based on requirement. You can easily change the temperature, you can easily change the pressure. That is the other benefit. And the major benefit is you can easily transport the fluid can be easily transported through pipelines. Okay, so these are the benefits of using any component or any chemical in the fluid form or the apply in the fluid form. है ना? So the most of the chemicals we use in the industry, generally they are present in the fluid form. Okay, either in the liquid form or in the gaseous form. So this subject specifically discussed about the fluids. Okay, now what type of operations required, what type of operation is coming in this subject, है ना? So the basic operations which you study in this subject is the how to how to transport the fluid from one part to the other part, because transportation is a very important component of the industry, है ना? You have to transport the reactant from the supplier to the industry. Then inside the industry also you have to transported the reactant from the storage part to the the reactors. Then after reactors you have to transport the products from the reactors to again the storage part. So the transportation of fluid is very important. Okay, so that is the one important task part which you will study. And then in this transport of the fluid, you have to study how much energy is required. Okay, so based on the energy we will discuss about the design of pumps. So design of pump is also the part of the fluid mechanics. Okay, so fluid mechanics is a very basic subject. Even in the engineering, fluid mechanics is a common subject in chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, and civil engineering. In all three branches, we will study the fluid mechanics. Okay, there are some difference between the fluid mechanics in these three branches. When you study the fluid mechanics in civil engineering, they will generally study the open flow. I have already explained you what is the closed flow and open flow. When the fluid flows inside a closed pipe and or the closed channel, then it is called the closed flow. But if the fluid is flowing in an open channel, then it is called the open flow. Like river is a open flow, and so in civil engineering generally they design the canal for irrigation purpose. So they will study the fluid mechanics for in the open flow, majorly in the open flow. In mechanical engineering and in chemical engineering, generally we study the fluid in the closed flow manner, closed flow channels. Okay, so because in our application generally we transported the fluid in the closed channels in the pipelines. Okay, so that is the difference. In the generally mechanical engineers study the fluid mechanics slightly more in the 2 or 3 subjects, because they have to design the equipments which are movable. And basically when you design the automobiles or you design the aircrafts, so you have to study the you have to select the fluid mechanics part also. Okay, so in that part, because there are resistance of the air or there are resistance when you design a building also, then you will find that there is a resistance or the drag force of the air. So due to that, they have to study the fluid mechanics slightly more deeply. And in the our part in chemical engineering, the difference is that we have to study the fluid mechanics of the different types of fluids. We also study the fluid mechanics of non-Newtonian fluids, like plastic melts or gels. So we will because chemical engineers deals different type of chemicals. Some of the chemicals are the Newtonian fluids, some of the chemicals are the non-Newtonian fluids. You already know what is the meaning of Newtonian fluid and non-Newtonian fluids. So there are different types of non-Newtonian fluids which we have to deal in the chemical engineering. So you have to study the fluid mechanics of non-Newtonian fluids also. But in the mechanical engineering and in the civil engineering, basically they will only focus on the fluid mechanics of water or oil. And they will not study the fluid mechanics of the different chemicals. So this is the difference between the fluid mechanics of the fluid mechanics subject in the chemical engineering and fluid mechanics subject in the mechanical engineering. In mechanical engineering, they also study the design of the turbines or design of the blades of the wind tunnels, and so this type of equipment they also design, but that is not the part of the chemical engineering. So there are slight difference between the fluid mechanics in chemical, mechanical, and civil engineering. Otherwise, basics are same, and the 80% subjects are same. There 20% subjects is different in all three branches. So we will start with the fluid mechanics. So fluid mechanics basically divide in the two parts. So the first part is called the fluid statics. And the second part is called the fluid dynamics. Okay, so basically the in the fluid statics we will study the forces or the operating conditions of the fluid when it present in the stationary form. Okay, suppose you have a storage tank and that storage tank is filled with a fluid. So how much pressure exists at the bottom of the storage tank? Because based on that pressure you have to design the thickness of the storage tank. है ना? So for that you have to calculate the hydraulic pressure of the fluid at the bottom of the tank. है ना? So all the weight of the fluid which is filled inside the tank, that will exert the pressure on the bottom surface. So that's why your pressure is higher at the bottom of the tank than the top of the tank. So that type of study you can do in the fluid statics. In fluid statics, you can also study how the you can separate the two fluids based on the density. Okay, so there are equipments which are designed to separate out the two different fluids, and based on the density, if the fluids are immiscible. And like when you explore the oil from the earth, from the oil wells, so that oil not come as a pure oil, that comes with the mud and water. So first you have to separate it out the mud and water from the oil. So that you can do by using the some type of equipments which works on the principle of the fluid statics. Okay. The second part is fluid dynamics. So in the fluid dynamics, you will study the physics of the flowing fluid. And also you will design the equipments like the pipes. You will design the different type of joints, pipe joints, or different type of valves used in the pipelines. And then you will study how much pressure drop occurs inside the pipelines. Based on that pressure drop, you have to design the pumps. So that part will come under the fluid dynamics. In fluid dynamics, you will also study the different type of mixtures. And also mixtures are also the part of the fluid mechanics, where you study how can you mix the two different types of fluids, and by using the mixtures. So the type of mixtures, the type of blades, that also comes under the fluid dynamics. And at the last, you will study the drag forces, and also how the drag and buoyancy forces works on a solid body, how the fluid exert the force on the solid body, that you will study in the fluid dynamics. So there are two different part of the fluid mechanics. Okay, now fluid itself is classified in two types. If you take only the fluid material, so fluid can be classified in two different types. What are the types of fluids? Anyone?
Newtonian, non-Newtonian.
Newtonian, non-Newtonian is a one type of classification. The most basic classification is incompressible and compressible fluids.
Ah, yes, sir.
So what is the difference between the incompressible fluids and the compressible fluids?
सर लिक्विफिकेशन,
Hmm?
लिक्विफाई अगर हम कर पाएंगे तो वो कंप्रेसिबल है.
Not that classification. Basically, the compressible fluids are the fluids where density can be where the you can change the density of material by applying the pressure, है ना? If you increase the pressure, the density of fluid is changing. That fluids are called the compressible fluid. In incompressible fluids, when the density is not changing with the pressure, है ना? So if density is the function of pressure, then fluid is compressible fluid. Most of the gases are the compressible fluids. Okay, so in gases you can change the density, like rho is the density. So we will follow the standard notations. So rho means density, T means temperature, P means pressure, V means linear velocity, Q means volumetric velocity, mu means viscosity, which we have followed in the transport phenomena. Okay, so you have to follow the standard notations in this subject also. So if the rho is the function of temperature and pressure, then fluid is compressible. And if rho is not the function of, rho is only the function of temperature, not the pressure, then fluid is incompressible. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the compressible fluid and incompressible fluid. So in most of the part of fluid mechanics, because we will deal a lot of compressible fluid but very less the incompressible fluid. Okay, so in most of the part we will study the compressible fluid only. Okay, then we will go for the in most of the part we will study incompressible fluids only, and we will study the liquids only. Then we will also study little bit incompressible fluid. In incompressible fluids, the derivation will become more complicated, because you also have the pressure and density is also correlated to each other, and then you have to take a correlation for the pressure and density. So for ideal gases, you can use the ideal gas law. And so different type of for real system, you have to take the compressibility factor Z, which you have studied in the thermodynamics. So you can when you design a pump for the gas, or when you design a pipeline for the gas, you have to select which type of fluid is flowing will flow in that pipeline. Okay, so based on that only you can design, because it will depend upon the correlation between density and pressure also. Okay. Now, before starting, I will also tell you about the books. Books for,
सर
हाँ बोलो. कुछ पूछना है? So generally there are common books in the mechanical engineering. You will find the separate book. Mechanical and civil engineering, you will find the separate book for the fluid mechanics. But in the chemical engineering, generally we will use the common book for fluid mechanics, heat transfer and the mass transfer. So the most important book which you will follow for all of these four subjects, that is the unit operation of chemical engineering. Unit operations of chemical engineering. And the writer is McCabe and Smith. है ना? So basically है ना? There are two writers.
McGrail Hill.
So I think Ravinder madam also follow this book for the heat transport.
नहीं, उन्होंने कुछ और बुक दिया एक्चुअली. उन्होंने प्रोसेस क्यू डी क्यू केरिन करके है.
Okay. है ना?
KERN.
Even you can use this
ऐसे.
book also. है ना? With that book you can use this book also. In this book, and even the mechanical operations also you will find in this book. Okay, so this is very important book in for the chemical engineering point of view. You will find most of the subject in the book, apart from the that chemical reaction engineering. For chemical reaction engineering, you have to select the other book. It is also called the McCabe Smith. This book is known as the McCabe Smith book. Okay, so this is the first book. Second book is the Zinkoplish. So 1 minute I will show you the Zinkoplish book. Hmm. So the second book is the Transport Processes and Unit Operation by Jinkoplis. Okay. So this is also very good book. In this book also you will find the fluid mechanics, heat transport, and mass transport. Okay. Even the some of the mechanical operations are also there. Okay. So the I will follow these two books, and I also suggest you follow only these two books and don't follow any mechanical engineering book. Otherwise you will confused. Because they will study the same subject but at different point of view. So the some of the part which we will study in brief, they will study in very rigorously, and some of the part which we will study in very rigorously, then they will study in very brief. Okay, so don't follow any mechanical engineering book. The mechanical engineering books are easily available on different bookshops. You have to follow on these two books. Okay, this book, Unit Operation of Chemical Engineering, this is available in library also. I think 25 or 30 copies are available in the library. Or if you want to purchase this book, either the cost of the book is like 400 or 500 rupees, and or I think you the 4 or 5 subjects are covered in this book, so it is not very costly book. Okay, so you can also purchase this book. Okay, you can purchase from the online also. Online on this book is also available online, or you can purchase from the bookshops. Okay, and the transport processes and unit operation. I have the copy of this book, and I will share with you. I also have the copy of this unit operation book. Okay, so if you want, I will share this book also with you.
सर
Okay.
कौन सा एडिशन है आपके पास पहले उसका मैक्रिल का यूनिट ऑपरेशन वाले का?
I have the fourth edition. I think fourth edition is available online.
नहीं
But
सर,
the recent
एक्चुअली मेरे पास
edition,
फिफ्थ एडिशन है.
fourth and fifth are available online. है ना? But the recent edition is the seventh edition. That is not available, I think.
पता नहीं सर.
है ना? So उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. You can use the fourth edition also and fifth edition also. That is not very that is not a problem. Okay. Comes to the laboratory part. In laboratory part, because we have the fluid mechanics lab here, but because you are not the classes held on online mode, so you cannot do the experiment here, है ना? So what I will do, I will share the video with you, and I will explain how to conduct the experiment and how to take the readings. Okay, these are the universal experiments. Even you will find these experiments. You have to write the experiment as you have to write as you write in the file, है ना? So you have to write you have to make the soft copy of each experiment and submit to the classroom only. Okay, तो उसकी कोई आपको हार्ड कॉपी नहीं बनानी है, आपको सॉफ्ट कॉपी में ही उसको लिखना है और उसे सबमिट करना है क्लासरूम पे. ठीक है, तो उसको हम वही वैल्यूएट कर लेंगे और वैल्यूएशन विल डन बेस्ड ऑन द वाइवा इन द क्लासरूम. ठीक है, तो टाइम टू टाइम आई विल कंडक्ट द वाइवा ऑफ द लेबोरेटरी क्लास. ठीक है, तो if you want, whenever the college will open, we will conduct the experiments again for this subject, fluid mechanics, because these experiments are not very big experiment. You can easily conduct in the classroom. Okay, so अगर कॉलेज स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं मई जून में, तो we will conduct 1 week course to complete your experiment, है ना, फिजिकली. ठीक है, तो अभी वीडियो से करते हैं, शेयर करके लिंक, देन वी विल कंडक्ट फिजिकली whenever the college will start. ठीक है,
ओके सर.
तो आई थिंक मैं आज अभी खत्म करता हूँ क्लास को. सो इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास इज द मंडे, है ना? सो मंडे से हम शुरू करते हैं. ठीक है, मंडे मॉर्निंग इज द लेबोरेटरी लैब क्लास. तुम लोग की लैब क्लास है ना मंडे मॉर्निंग को? हाँ, मंडे मॉर्निंग को तुम्हारी लैब क्लास है. तो इन द लैब
Yes,
क्लास
sir.
आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू द फर्स्ट एक्सपेरिमेंट. ठीक है,
एक्चुअली पर उसमें तो एक ही लैब का है, G3 का है.
हाँ वो G3 आएंगे उसमें.
ठीक है सर.
कितने हो तुम लोग? अच्छा, बाकी क्लासेस कैसे हो रही हैं?
बाकी क्लासेस का पता नहीं, पर रविंदर कौर मैम ने बोला है कि एक साथ के लिए ऐसा मैम का ओपिनियन है, एक साथ करेगी वो.
चलो देख लेंगे, है ना? मंडे को तो G3 आओ, उसके बाद अगर मैडम एक साथ करती है तो उस हिसाब से हम अरेंज कर लेंगे. ठीक है।
हाँ, और G3 45 टू लेकर लास्ट है, 45
हाँ,
टू लेके 501
45 है
टू
टू
लेके 66 है,
66 है ना,
देन
विद
501।
विद लेटरल एंट्रीज
हाँ
उर्वशी, ठीक है। ओके। और फिर मंडे को इवनिंग में ही तुम्हारी थ्योरी क्लास है, तो मंडे मॉर्निंग में एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हैं। फर्स्ट एक्सपेरिमेंट इज वेरी इजी एक्सपेरिमेंट, so that we will cover on the Monday morning, ठीक है।
ओके सर।
चलो ठीक है, आज की क्लास अभी खत्म करते हैं, सो वी विल मीट ऑन मंडे।
सर ये दोनों बुक भी एक बार गूगल क्लासरूम पे आप शेयर ही कर देना।
हाँ, मैं भी शेयर कर रहा हूँ, मैं भी शेयर कर दूंगा, है ना।
ओके सर,
ओके, चलिए।
थैंक यू सर।
ओके।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर।
ओके, चलिए।
चलो, किसी कुछ कहना है? मंडे को मिलते हैं, मंडे को अच्छा तक फ्राइडे कल मिलते हैं। चलो ठीक है, बाय।
नेक्स्ट क्लास कब है?
अब कल है, आज कुछ नहीं है।
ठीक है भाई।
कल 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 तो अभी नहीं है।
रेवन
कल का
7।
अगर सुनो, कल अगर मैं 9 बजे मैसेज करता हूँ तो ठीक है, नहीं तो समझना कि कल 9 बजे क्लास नहीं है, मोस्ट प्रोबेबली नहीं ही होगी, ठीक है।
रेवन एक बात बता,
क्लास कैंसिल करा?
क्या?
मैं पूछ रहा हूँ, मेरे को एक बात बता दो, अभी आर के मैम ने क्लास ली थी, उसमें कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट था?
हाँ, आर के मैम ने बोला है कि फाइल कैसे बनानी है। फाइल में
कैसे?
मिशन लिखना है, विजन लिखना है, मिशन ऑफ डीटीयू, मिशन विजन ऑफ डीटीयू लिखना है, फिर मिशन विजन ऑफ अप्लाइड केमिस्ट्री, उसके बाद पीओआर क्या बोल, मतलब वो जो मैम ने
तू
शेयर किया
बना
था।
के भेज दियो मेरे को अपनी,
हाँ ठीक है।
ये बेस्ट रहेगा।
हाँ चलो, और कुछ?
बाकी और कुछ तो नहीं बोला ना, लाइक कुछ इंट्रोडक्शन कुछ ऐसा दिया? मैंने ले
नहीं नहीं,
पाया था,
बस
बाहर था।
कुछ नहीं, वो सब मैम तो जानती है, हमें क्या ही इंट्रोडक्शन देगी।
नहीं, सब्जेक्ट के रिकॉर्ड, चल ठीक है, वो मैं तेरे से पूछ लूंगा।
मैम ये बताई कि सिलेबस क्या है, कैसे पढ़ेगी,
हाँ
क्या
वो
क्या।
मैं देख लूंगा, छोड़ देंगे।
उतना नहीं था। और किसी को कुछ कहना है? चलो ठीक है, मैं लीव कर रहा हूँ।
अरे सुनना, ये
अच्छा हाँ, बोल।
मंडे वाली क्लास होती है जो, ये 4 से 6 बजे वाली, ये जल्दी नहीं करवा सकता है अगर सर फ्री हो तो?
देखते हैं, 2 से 4 में जरूर कुछ होगा, इसी वजह से वो खाली रख दिया है।
देख लो, अगर हो सके तो 4 बजे वाइंड अप हो जाए। सर से बोला भी था लास्ट क्लास में,
लास्ट क्लास में?
सेमेस्टर 3 की भाई।
नहीं तो अभी देखते हैं, सर ने टाइम टेबल ये बनाया ना, तो सर पता नहीं। ठीक है, देख ले, बात करते हैं, ठीक है, बाय।
रेवन मेरे को एक बात बता, जो हमने थर्ड सेमेस्टर में पढ़ा था उसका इम्पैक्ट इस वाले पे कितना पड़ेगा?
भाई कुछ नहीं पड़ेगा, पता है, एक दिन मैंने सर से पूछा था।
मेरे को
ठीक
बस
है,
यही
अच्छा।
मेन क्वेश्चन है मेरा अभी तो।
नहीं ठीक है, पर उतना मतलब थोड़ा बहुत बेसिक आइडिया होगा, पर
हाँ
इतना
वो
कि
है, बट क्योंकि देख ईडीए और ये सब सब्जेक्ट है ना, वो सर के ऊपर से गया है, ये समझ, तो उसका
नहीं,
इम्पैक्ट।
उससे बस थोड़ा बहुत काम आएगा, प्रेशर वेसल डिजाइन करने का, पर कौन सा हमने कुछ।
हाँ
रेवन,
हाँ,
कहाँ पे है तू?
दिल्ली आ गया।
दिल्ली आ गया ना?
हाँ,
कल कॉलेज में मिल।
आ जाओ। क्या ठीक है, आ
आ
जाऊंगा।
जाएगा ना कल कॉलेज? ठीक है, कल कॉलेज है, काम है।
ठीक है, आ जाऊंगा।
मेरी फीस नहीं सबमिट हुई अभी तक।
तू अकेले नहीं
बैक
पढ़ा
वाली भी,
सेमेस्टर?
बैक वाली भी।
वाह बेटा। मैं बता रहा हूँ ना, एडमिन ब्लॉक में जाना है पहले।
अबे बताना उतना कुछ नहीं, चुपचाप से आ कॉलेज, मनीष सर को पकड़ लेंगे।
ठीक है, मैं देखता हूँ।
ठीक है।